little dog sat down there or something like.
Again, getting away from me potentially injuring another one of your clients. So I
But yeah,
can't believe that.
as long as you stay in London, my athletes will be safe.
It's dreadful. Honestly, when he told me, he never told me until. So I got to super training and I saw Mark and Zeg and I was like, was that from me? And he went, yeah, it was. He went, you know, I'd take a week off. And I was like, oh man. It was like that page, you know, that Leonardo da Vinci page. I don't know if it's Leonardo da Vinci, but the one where it's like that. And I was just like,
Oh,
that was literally
3
my reaction. I
minutes.
thought, I was just sat there like, oh my God, like, what have I done? And then you sent me a post said, oh, we've got 2 PRs back to back. And I'm like, God's sake. But anyhow, yeah, well, if he's on mend, that is what matters.
Yeah,
So, and he's better.
it's like it never happened, to be honest.
Wicked. Yeah, I'm anabolic. There we go.
If you just got a hit
That,
list of my athletes, like is Marley next or something? Next time you come on SD, you're like, yeah, get that one.
oh, I'm too scared of Marley. Not scared of a Conor. Marley scares me. Nah, man, he's lovely. I got total time for him. Right, so this week it's Strongman, isn't it?
Yeah, we're gonna have a little chat about Strongman.
Ah, dear. Well, I mean, see, this is where it gets great again because of last time we spoke, it was back to back after comps. We're comparing on in GL dots total, and now this time it's even funnier because you coach Strongman, you've competed in it. Whereas the times that I've competed in strongman, I've never really prepped for them. I've just done them. I know about
Mm.
it, but I've
Yeah,
just done them.
we've watched them on TV at Christmas, and yeah,
There we go.
you've just rocked up. You've done like the old school preparation. You know, you hear the greats now, and they just be like, oh yeah, I trained in a normal gym, and then I just rocked up to a strongman comp.
Literally, do you know what I mean? I don't know about yourself, but the comps I've competed in. So, two of them being in Sheffield. One of them was in Doncaster, um, and the last one was up in Hartlepool. So obviously all in the north again. But the thing about it is that it's. I mean, obviously, as we both know, being you being from your Irish background, etc. As well, it's big over there. I mean, you've got the greats like Glenn Ross, you've got Pau Dwyer, you've probably got loads from Ireland, haven't you?
Yeah, there is a good selection, and then like even like that lower down, say, not necessarily grassroots, but like probably not the professional side of things. You've still got some really strong lads that do well at like UKs and Brits.
Oh,
Uh,
absolutely. It's much more. I would also say it's much more of a Celtic sort of out there thing because obviously you've got people from Yorkshire who obviously do well, like Luke Richardson, and then you've got who else? I'm trying to think. Jamie Reeves, and then you've got God. You've probably got two. You've got a lot from Yorkshire. You just can't count. You just can't count on one hand. But then you go to it's big in obviously like Celtic territories, Scotland, Ireland, Wales, Northern Ireland. It's huge in those parts. Um, but I mean, when was the last time you did a strongman comp then?
last time I did a strongman comp was 2022.
And was it weighted? Was it inters, opens?
I did inters for that one. I've not done a weight class comp for strongman.
Do you know what I mean? I just couldn't because I've got friends, and funny enough, he's from Northern Ireland originally, and he did a weighted strongman. I just don't know how you do it. It's got to be just done. Where if you ask me, like strong man to me is just get yourself as big and mobile as possible, and therefore you'll be a good strongman. I just can't think being weighted in it in any way is going to make you that strong because you've got such restriction then on what you can do for weight in terms of unless they're literal freak, there's an upper limit in which you can sort of have in terms of weight or maybe obviously what you've got really.
I don't disagree, but I think you can just relate it very easily to powerlifting. Like if you limit
Oh
yourself
yeah.
into a weight class, you're gonna only limit your strength. So like on both sides of it, it's like get yourself as big as strong as possible. You'll do as well as you can. But that's why there aren't that many weight classes in strongman because it's not really a weight class sport.
Well,
I think you've got for the men, it's like under 80, under 90, under 105. That's it. Like once you're above 105, just do the opens.
you're literally a massive. Once you're above 105, I would agree with that, because once you're above 105, you are like a strong man in general, in terms of like the literal noun itself. You are that, but it's because obviously powerlifting is so much more organized. Well, obviously we go on the platform, we know what the specifications of everything are to a T, and then we go there, we lift, we go off the platform, and we're done. Whereas in strongman, there's no federation for it. And I had a discussion with somebody not too long ago about it, and we said it just wouldn't work. Said because it's got to work on the basis of you can just use absolutely anything for it. So, for example, like obviously not on deadlifts. For example, you'd want calibrated plates, you'd want a half decent bar, you'd want some pretty good setups. But I mean, for some events, like almost like a car deadlift, like it doesn't matter. You just get like Terry's car from like next year, say, hey, use your car for a deadlift, and that's the sort of great stuff. I remember like at one of the comps we did car deadlift. It was a Doncaster one, and we did it, and it was this car deadlift. It was just some bloke's car. We'll just use my car. It was this big. It was this big unit vehicle. I thought, fucking hell, we're going to get that. And people do right on it, but I was like, that's how it works.
That is the beauty, and I think that's the appeal. When you get involved in it and you get involved in competing, you have that it could be anything. Like sometimes I reckon I've seen a lot of events. Like of course you sign up for an event. It's usually 5 disciplines, and then they tell you what it is. But then there's often like, a mystery one. That's half the time probably just because the event organizers are like, I don't know what to do. We'll just think of something on the day.
It's so true. They've done this. They've done this before for a comp. They just introduced it out of nowhere. And I think there's a fun in that, because a strong man, the term is just so encompassing. Obviously, we're so used to in just one plane of motion, quite literally in powerlifting, just make sure your squat, bench, and deadlift go up. Whereas there, you have to have everything to a T. You have to have your, obviously, you have to be mobile, you have to be strong, you have to have that cardiovascular endurance when it comes in. And, as powerlifters, they won't focus on that unless there's a directive with sports science to say, you should do it. Like, I don't know if you encourage your lifts under your belt in, as a coach for cardiovascular. I mean, there probably are benefits to it that I just don't know about. I mean, I just get my steps up by my job, and whatnot, and just doing my job. But the big thing is it's a massive term where it's like, you have to be just strong. And it's like, if that mystery event comes in, be prepared to just deal with it, because you're not going to have some, because if you know what events, you know what to train, then you're like spooked by it, and then some lone ranger could come in and just beat everyone because they know they've just, well, surprisingly, they're just really good at that event.
Yeah, and it forces you to like train all the events, be strong. You can't just be like, because you say you just rocked up to the comp. You trained to be strong, and you showed up to the comp and you competed. I was the complete opposite. I knew all the events that were in the competition that I've done. I found out the specifications for the kit, because they were like, a kit sponsor. And they were like, this company is going to provide the kit for this event. So I messaged them and was like, what are the dimensions of your stuff? And they told me. And then there was a guy that does metal work down the road. And I was like, can you make me this stuff? And he was like, yeah.
Oh my, do you know what that is? That's actually quite brilliant in a way. Like, that's something that I would do, but I wouldn't have the tenacity and intelligence to actually pursue the range that you'd go down with it. And that's just brilliant in a way, because the last comp I had, so obviously on that discussion, because I had Britain's Strongest Policeman in July of this year, or late June. I can't remember. It was late June or early July, and it was just a month before Southern qualifiers, which we discussed. And the training for that, I think I ended a pretty shoddy week 4 for powerlifting. I had public order training at Gravesend in Kent for the Met Police. And straight off the bat of that, he said, right, we're going to do a deload SBD. We're going to basically tone down everything that you're doing for a whole week. I told Stefan about this. He went, right, we'll tone down a whole week. So a whole week was just dialed down to do the events. And I had the only things that I had for event training in Pure Muscles Gym, and this is Walthamstow, by the way, had some farmers walks that were pretty tough on grip, not thin grip, but just tough, knurled grip that would basically sink into your hands. And the farmers was 130 kg. So I loaded that, kept the holds at it because you can't really do the runs on it any sort of on the running strip. You can't do much on it. And then I did the axle press, and I got both of those for enough in comp. So I was all right on those fronts, but obviously we don't have a log, we don't have a bag toss. Silver Dollar deadlift is awry as it is.
It's just
So
rack
it's
bar, isn't it? So
yeah. I mean, the only thing is because we have a deadlift bar, and it's what's the brand? I think it's a Rogue deadlift bar, and it's really good. Not obviously the Elephant bar. Obviously, it'd be great if we had that, but obviously they don't sell them, sadly. And using that, but I mean, I won on the Strongman comp. I won on through from novice to opens, and I was in the opens. I won on the Silver Dollar with 440 kg, which surprised me actually, getting that. And then after that, it was just a case of fight amongst the other PCs for top place. And I think obviously in policing, obviously, that's a different strand, but it's important to be strong. I mean, obviously it's a great comp to hold because, but culturally lads with Northern, so it's a big thing. But have you as a coach, how many strongmen have you coached, or how have you coached strongman?
So, see, the strongmen aren't gonna like this, right? They're gonna hate what I'm gonna say. So I was like the way I coached myself to do strongman, and then the way I now coach other people to do strongman is different.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't very intelligent, but I also had every resource available to me. It was like I trained mostly over COVID because my comp was just afterwards, so I had nothing to do.
Yeah.
I had, my student loan came in because I was at uni. I had nowhere to go. I had nothing to spend it on. So that's what I'm saying. Like I bought all the kit, found out everything about it. And
Yeah.
I could train 6-7 days a week, just absolutely nailing myself, getting as much sleep as I needed, getting as much food as I needed.
Brilliant.
So I could train deadlifts 3 times a week and moving events 2-3 times a week, pressing events 3-4 times a week. And that wouldn't, I could recover from it. But everyone else has a job, a family, a life, kids, whatever. So you couldn't give all that work to somebody else. Realistically,
No.
they not have the resources available to recover. So the thing that people won't like is I looked for the closest other sport where you've got to be fit and strong and fast and powerful and mobile. CrossFit. Right? Yeah.
No comment. No comment.
So I looked at the closest one, which is just weak strongman, CrossFit. And on their education course, they outline how they train all those disciplines throughout a week and balance it. So on a Monday, they'll do I think it's heavy strength work, heavy medium conditioning. On a Tuesday, they'll do light conditioning, gym, strength work and mobility, like gymnastics. Wednesday they'll do 2 disciplines, and then it's 3, and then it's 2. If they were to train 5 days a week. If there's another option where they do 3 on 1 off, 3 on 1 off, which doesn't really fit into a normal week. But basically, I read all of that, deconstructed it all, swapped gymnastics for something, can't remember. I've got it all written down. Well, yeah, it's using that framework, which clearly works. CrossFit training works for CrossFitters. And it was adapting it now for strongman, where you don't need to do gymnastics. You don't have to do handstand walks and stuff. But you have to do moving events.
Of course.
You do need fitness, but not to the extent of a CrossFitter.
No.
And you need more strength. So it's just rebalancing all of that. So now I'm able to fit all of the like 5 events that are in most competitions within a week and train each discipline like pretty evenly. Because most strongmen are like, oh, I've got like a 400 kilo deadlift. Amazing. Please do 300 for reps. Oh, I got 2. Like that's not helpful. Oh, why did you only get 2? Oh, I gassed out. Right. You've got farmers for
There you go. There you
you know?
go.
Like it's many strongmen will just lack the training of a whole physical quality just because they don't like it. So you're never gonna be a good strongman. It's like doing powerlifting, but like, oh yeah, I don't bench. What?
It's you're preaching to the choir here, because there is a stubbornness that I've noticed. So in the past, training up north with it, I've noticed that some of the strongmen can be very stubborn on some of the stuff, and it's the same approach. I think obviously last time was when we were discussing powerlifting, where there's a lot of like, oh, I want to do a heavy single and whatnot. And obviously people will go max out when their coach says, do not do this. I'm telling them, don't bother, because you're training up, you're going to get injured and whatnot. And it's the same of just basic principles when it comes to fitness, endurance and events. I mean, we had for one event that we had, I'll give an example. One event that really did everyone's legs in Britain's Strongest Policeman, obviously last competence, the most clear that I can relate to was the Conan's wheel. And you had some absolutely big, enormous lads. A lot of them didn't go for the opens. I did, because I thought I want to become the strongest copper. But a lot of them were hammering out, the deadlift, obviously a single. They were hammering out the medley. They had a pretty good grasp when it came to some of the other events. Obviously, there were 5 of them, but then the Commons wheel really did their legs in, and because it's a very basic one. Obviously, it's a great example of an exclusive event to Strongman, but it was just like again, obviously, I'm not the one to comment, because obviously as coppers we can have screwed up shift schedules, but I just thought you need to focus on some very basic training principles, and that's why CrossFit, as you said, comes in so valuable, because if you need that, if you can't put in a cardiovascular event or cardiovascular training into a strongman program, are you really making a strongman program? No, you're not.
No. And I think it comes into highlighting the difference between how I trained it and how I coach it, because I had the ability, because part of the problem there, like you're saying, it did everyone's legs in, is that not only do people often lack the time, but the equipment and the resource ability to like do a comp day session. So powerlifter is very easy to do an SBD session, right?
Of course.
You can go do like a heavy squat bench deadlift in one session. It's quite neurally fatiguing, but ultimately like it's not going to take too long to recover.
Of course.
How fucking hard is a strongman comp? Like
Absolutely.
5 to
Do you know
6
what?
then.
Hard. Do you know what? Hard as anything. And you wouldn't find most places. You're not going to find south of either South Yorkshire, Manchester. Even then, you'd probably struggle, because you've got to get up to like sort of Leeds, North Yorkshire, Lancashire to actually start getting some proper gyms in.
Yeah.
Because
So
most of them,
I was just gonna say, like, so you can not really train a whole events day to train that kind of really specific fitness to last those last 2, 3 events. That's when loads of people break down. That's 2, 3 events they start breaking down because they're not being able to train them all in one day. So to make up for that, that's why you put the fitness in during the week, so they
of
are more
course,
fit, so they can handle that. Whereas when I did it, I still did fitness. I was like coming off of playing rugby for like 10 years, so I wasn't unfit to begin with, but I could train really specifically like a whole events day and know that I could recover from that. Whereas yeah,
it's a very telling sport with strongman, because it's obviously, you'll have all these events where some of them are absolutely fun as anything, and to some, and some will hate them. Luckily, I've had Conan's Rule for 2, so I know how hellish an event it is. But you've got ones where it will absolutely blister people. It's one of those ones as well. I think it can be excruciating in the training of it. I was lucky that on the day that I've been all right at deadlifts and powerlifting, I had a chat with some, because I'm still close with some of the lads from British Strongest Policemen, and from past comps, I still talk to them because they're it's like powerlifting, the lads that. But a great example is I had a chat with Stuart Ross, and Stuart Ross won. He's from West Mercia Police. I'm not sure where he was from originally. I'm not entirely sure he was from around sort of the West Midlands originally. But he had a chat with me. He said to me, if you gave this any sort of training specific to it, you'd have probably done really well. And I had a chat with the winner of last year, and he's a Glaswegian copper who works in like schools policing. It's hilarious. Absolute unit of a man who's working with like going around schools in the southern half of Scotland. I'm like, this guy, but anyhow, and they said that it's just that sort of specificity that you've got. I mean, Stuart had a strongman gym next to him. The runner up, who came second, a strongman gym next to him. The guy who won last year, he wasn't in it. He came to spectate and sort of handle someone on the day as well. I mean, my other half came to handle me on that day. Shouts out to her. And they said it's easy to train on, but I mean, it's such a. I mean, if anything, on a sort of separate note, it's such a wonderful sport as well. I mean, if you ask me, I don't know about yourself. Obviously, we've known each other through powerlifting for that sort of last year and a half, 2 years, but I would return to strongman any day of the week if I could. Absolutely. I would be going to it straight away because I don't hate powerlifting. I just love strongman that much. So, it's a great sport, and I think obviously but it's one of those ones where it's very hard to compare amongst people because of how you can't really compare events because there's specifications that you were talking about. I mean, you get, for example, you'll get ones where with bags and whatnot, and it's very technical. For example, like I didn't realize until I did it with a bag run how absolutely hard it is. I thought, I'm like, no, that is absolutely excruciating. I was like, how do you guys do this?
Yeah. So there's 2 points I want to bring up here. The first one I will bring up second, and I'll do the second one first. I need to write them down. No, I won't. Anyway, yeah. So I think the specificity, ability to train things specifically, I think that's what can separate your like everyday strongman athlete from the people that go quite far. That's two things I want to bring up. So I think that's a point there. Like you were saying, that the people that won, the people that come second, like they had easy access to specific, like blogs, sandbags, like the kit you need. Whereas yourself, you basically trained powerlifting until you went to a comp and you maybe did some farmers holds. And then absolutely. So I was doing powerlifting and strongman at the same time, essentially thinking,
wow,
like just get really, really strong. And I just I turned the dial in terms of I've got a strongman comp coming up. I'll turn the dial to do more strongman stuff. I might do a few less benches, more overhead presses, and do less squats, but I could do more carrying events. And then when powerlifting came around, I turned the dial and did less of the moving events and more of the strongman stuff. Powerlifting stuff, sorry. So that's how I kind of balanced that. But it got to the point where I was like, all right, I want to do really well at. I basically came to terms with the idea I couldn't do really well at both. I could do all right at both. So I chose, right, I'm going to do powerlifting. I'm going to go as far as I can with that. And long term, I'm going to go back to strongman. Because I'll have far more enjoyment with the variety, and I get to choose what events I go to. I get to choose the powerlifting ones.
Are you saying that now that you want to go back into strongman also?
Oh yeah, no, I would, and I absolutely will.
With that kind of spirits.
Yeah, that's the third one because Because yeah, it's like powerlifting. The hard choices are like location and cost of getting there or something like that. Like it's always going to be SBD. Strongman, because this brings me to my first point. Each competition's generally different. Yes, you have an overhead press event, you have a moving event, maybe two moving events, maybe two overhead events. You're going to have likely some sort of stone or sandbag work, and then probably a deadlift or a squat event, right? That's generally how it's
Yeah.
going to go.
Yeah,
But
of
I
course.
absolutely hate yoke. It is my least
Oh,
favorite. It is my weakest
yeah.
event. So I was going to ask you, what is your favorite and your least favorite events?
Stones, always stones. I absolutely love stones. There is something just so it's how do I describe it? You can probably tell how much I love it straight away. It's just so much. It's just such an easy thing to do. For example, you it's like the old caveman's like thesis: pick up a stone, ugh ugh. Like that sort of. It's just, I don't know. It's like so. It's always been my strongest event comparatively, because I could it's just grip and rip. It's like deadlift, grip and rip, but obviously be more controlled of it. Least favorite. God, that is a good question. It was never yoke. It has to be. It has. Oh God, you've asked a really good question there. Probably bag or keg toss. Hate it.
Okay.
It's a tough one. I'm not very good at it, so there we go. Hate it. I mean, I'd love to be good at it, because the thing is it's a hatred of it cost me in comp. But if you ask me saying that doing it, there is obviously something, and I think obviously strongman sort of builds into that, because it's a very sort of tribal approach to it, and a very sort of old school approach of just chuck it over the bleeding thing, and that's and there you go, there's your event done. But you've got to be very strategic with it, because the blokes who would and obviously I'll use reference point if if I can. So in Britain's Strongest Policeman, there was two guys who were about 6'6", and one was tall and 6'6". And I thought, what the hell? Like, these blokes are mutants. They didn't struggle on it. Now I'm only immediately 5'11" in terms of height compared to these blokes, right? So obviously you've got most people strongman about 6'2" and above on average. I did a little calculation of this, and they were really good at just chucking them over, because it's like, well, you've got the reach and you're all right. But for me, I was just, for me, it's just like I'm one of the smaller ranges of it, so it's not as good. But let's spin it around. What's your least favourite and most favourite then?
Right. I've not done every event because, to be fair, you're saying that bag toss was your least favorite. I'm yet to do that. I've I definitely want to, and I'm surprised that you weren't as
No.
good at it. But as you were explaining it, how taller guys were much better. It reminded me of like shot put, discus. Those athletes are really tall, and they are throwing events,
Yeah,
and they're
it's
absolutely
so
massive
true.
as well. So I like clearly, and the strongmen that are good at these throwing events, Thor, Hathor Bjornsson, really good at throwing events. Brian Shaw, really good at throwing events. So I think the height thing there, because I like you're pretty powerful. Like I've seen you jumping around the gym, so I thought that you'd be good at those. Um, yeah.
Brilliant.
But yeah, my least favorite is without a doubt yoke.
It's,
I
do you
hate
know
yoke.
what? If on the specifics of it, I remember the first time I touched a yoke, and I mean, like with anything, I'll shout out any of the people who sort of got me to the point where I am now, and helped. A shout out to Rob Marsh, aka Forrest. A bit of a context. This bloke, this guy. I mean, I need to text him actually and ask how he is. But he started guiding me with some stuff, and his actual approach, I'm not kidding you, was, why are you called Forrest? Is that like your middle name? No, I'm called Forrest because I'm good at two things: driving buses and lifting heavy things. Right, okay. He was a bus driver in Sheffield. Great bloke. But anyway, so Rob taught me how to do yoke, and it's hard, but when we got into it, it got easier. Now it doesn't mean it just gets easier from there. There's so much more that goes into it, and training wise, probably a lot that you could do for it. But he said it was like getting a sort of pace of motion. So obviously it was like, get yourself sort of set up under it, pick it up, and then it's like little baby steps until you get a rhythm established. So kind of like farmers in essence, but obviously you've got that weight hanging on your back. And he was very good at teaching the idea of it, of little baby steps and just getting a rhythm and motion. He had a fantastic yoke. His yoke was, I think his yoke was over 400 kg. Like, that's how strong this bloke was. Like, he was just,
Jesus.
and again, like, he works in a forgery in Sheffield now. He's an absolute, just a unit of a man, and he just does his training, just, you know, goes off and sees his kids and whatnot, and his wife, and that was the attitude that he has. But I mean, it's this sounds there's probably so much to go into, but how have you coached people for specific events or weaknesses?
Okay. I mean, it's just coaching. Like, coaching is coaching. Like, I'll go and educate myself. I think it really helps that I've done pretty much all the movements, because then I can coach it back to people. If you've learned it yourself, you're going to have a better idea of how to coach it to other people. If you know, I'm no fucking tennis player, but if I started coaching someone tennis, they wouldn't get anywhere with it.
No.
So yeah, I've coached also, like, in person, online for Strongman, and what they need to do is always the same. It's just bit more difficult to see what they're up to online because it's down to a video. But no, I absolutely agree. Like, any moving event, you have to start with short steps. You never want to make them long, because you spend more time on one foot, and then being on one foot's not very stable. You also don't want to, like, lunge into position. You don't want to be having the yoke or the farmers, like, bob up and down.
Yeah,
like, all of that kind of stuff. So, like, the thing is, I know how to do yoke. I just hate how varied yokes can be. They can have, like, a thick crossbar. They can have a thin crossbar. They can be, like, really wide, really narrow. They can be really rickety. Like, they could be really stable. The variety pisses me off. And why are they always so heavy? My first yoke event was 350 kilos, and that was an Inters comp. I'm like, what are you doing?
That's insane.
Why?
So, I mean, here's the reference point. So when I started doing Strongman, a big yoke for me was 250 kg. And I think I might still have that video, and I'll send it over to you later on. But it was just a length, and I can't remember how long the length was outside the gym, titanium strength gym in Sheffield, but it was a long sort of way. And I thought, that's hard enough. And then obviously 350 is massive.
Yeah,
I think when it comes to sorry,
I didn't complete it. I got down, picked up, turned around, maybe got like a quarter of the way back. Like, I was ruined, and it was like the third event as well.
Do you know what? So I'll be honest here, and this is how sort of some gyms might work. In titanium strength, they left the yoke outside an awful lot, so a lot of it was actually sort of distorted by water weight. If water got into the sort of the what they call what's the end of the powerlifting, Michael, where you stack the plates on? I've literally forgot the name.
Sleeve.
Yeah, the sleeve. Yeah, literally. So sleeves on there where you pile it on they would always be filled with water in some way, and you'd have to put it out because there's no way they could put it away. That's not to discredit the gym at all. It's just how you could. But a lot of like yokes. This is why I sort of argue sometimes that there should be a federation for strongman in terms of like equipment, because the variety in it is based off of obviously who can sell it. I mean, I took a look ages ago to see what I could sort of find through Rogue and Alarco won't do anything for stuff because they're powerlifting exclusive, and that's what you're getting. But Rogue will do stuff, and you know, I've always thought if they can just get equipment that is sourced very much like how powerlifting does it, sort of like, for example, a strongman federation example of it, and just see how that goes, then we wouldn't have to always like, okay, this is what the popular demand of strongmen say this is a good, sort of what do you call it for the back? Thing goes in the back. Forgot it again.
Yoke.
No, obviously not the yoke. Obviously what rests on your literally what
Oh,
rests on your
the
neck.
crossbar. Yeah, crossbar.
That's it. That's the one. Yeah, and literally, if you just ask that, I reckon that more strongmen than you think would be open to it. Because the thing is with strongman is that it's a very much, I'd say, from sort of growing up, it's a very working class sport in terms of like, the men who do it, they don't tend to be in, high up in a sort of Fortune 500, high end investment bankers. No, they're just regular blokes who go over tradesmen who do all sorts of work, self-made, own little business and whatnot, and they'll just go and do it on a Saturday afternoon, compete in the comp, have some fun with the locals. Obviously, it's huge up north, but I think they'd be more receptive to it than you think, and that's what makes, because yokes can be heavy. I agree with that. They sometimes feel inhumanely heavy.
Yeah, it just seems unfair how heavy they are. But fuck it. And then, people might think, oh, well, you're just bad at moving events. I've never lost a farmer's ball. Like, I am rapid with a set of farmers. Give me those in my hands. Like, I'm gone. But yoke, can't do it. Like, just.
So here's on another point on sort of moving events, because I mean, with us as powerlifters, we may sort of like the static events because we know what's more or less coming. We don't have to move, and it's kind of a bit of a stereotype played into it. Have you, in the past, for yourself or others, ever programmed sprints for strongman?
Oh, yeah. So, like,
I'm not
it
surprised.
would be part of the conditioning, but it would be like a relay kind of thing. Or I think someone called it like speed play before, where it'd be maybe like, all right, carry the bag over, put it over the yoke, run back or like walk back, and then sprint to the yoke again. Like just mixing that up. So, because you do need power elements. I've given plyometrics to plenty of people because, to be honest, that's the step that everyone misses. So you're asking about sprints, but if you can't jump and land, probably shouldn't sprint. And that's something that I learned in like a strength and conditioning coach in real, like quote, real sports like rugby. To get better at sprinting, you are probably going to need to get better at jumping and stuff. And that likely came from weightlifting. You see the
Yeah.
weightlifters jumping around all the time. It's like, what are you doing that for? You're supposed to do clean and jerks. Yeah, but I need to get more powerful. I need to increase my rate of force development. Right. Well, you need that for sprinting, and it like lets you get faster without sprinting in a sense.
Well, that's the thing. So, if you want to apply that into a strongman context, you could argue that for 3 events off the top of my head: axle, log, monster dumbbell, straight away. Because it's just so. There was one lad who I was against ages ago in log, and this guy had a ridiculous amount of power that was coming from his legs to press a log up. And it was you could just see it so well. And I did ask him, and he did say about jumping. He did say he did a lot of sort of box work, box jumps, and whatnot. Excuse me, to keep just that power generation through the legs. And I thought that's quite something. That an absolutely big bloke such as this. He was a big guy, by the way. He was a massive lad in an Inters comp. And he said it was all through just a lot of sort of jumping work and that power generation from the floor through his legs up. Because obviously, having a strong base and strong man is going to be everything. But he just did a lot of work where he just knew that that log was going to go up, not just by shoulders alone, but by that sort of lower body stability, that power generation that goes up through that just one motion. Because again, it was a log medley as well. So he could just do it for everyone, and he cleared it in the fastest time out of all of us. And I asked him at the end, and he came second overall. But I thought that is just, as you said, it's just so telling.
No, 100%. Like that's where maybe another pitfall of people's strongman training is like the technical aspect. Because I've beaten plenty of way bigger people. I'm often the lightest person when I do strongman because I've only recently gone over 100 kilos. Like I was usually between 93, 98 kilos when I do strongman, like in that range. And then because I'm not doing the weight class side of things, novice, inters, opens, like you're not going to find small people. Small people don't do strongman,
No,
really.
no, they don't. No, it
So,
obviously does.
so yeah, like I had to be very technical. I had to be technically good at these things. I've done 110 for 6 on log press in a minute. Yeah, I wasn't pressing it with just my
Brutality.
arms, you know?
Yeah, it's just
Like
brutality.
like I saw massive lads that are just like, yeah, log press, just arms only, the shoulders. I'm like,
No,
cool.
it's not.
I'm like, you got 5 reps, mate. I beat you, and my max is about 120 on the log. You know, like
Yeah.
because I could use my legs, I got a better score. Like that's what this is about.
Well, it's telling us well. I mean, it's that for stones, for example. One movement that I was told by somebody who was good at stones as well. It's just front squat. It's just front squat an awful lot because he said that obviously it's that sort of replication when you can't have the stones in your hand there and then. It's just being able to sort of handle that weight bearing being right in front of you. And he said a lot of the time he did holds for it as well. So, for example, he would hold it in a position, pause it at the bottom, and then just go because he knew that there's that point where you have to get comfortable around a stone once you get around. Now, whether you're using just chalk, you're using chalk, tacky, elbow slip, whatever you're using, there is that point when you get that stone up from the floor and you've gripped it, you've ripped it up, and you're sort of clambering around for the comfortable position to be able to finally squat it up and get it on that platform. There's that little part, and he says just a hold that helps.
No, absolutely. And the other really good thing to train for, like, if you don't have the kit, is something like Zercher squats.
Oh, 100%.
Because they're
It's
getting like that stress on your back that you would reaching around a stone, like the loads in front of you, just like the stone would be. And it's another thing I think missing from a lot of strongman's training is any squat work. Like you can do back squats, cool.
oh,
Front squats probably going to be better. No, it's not more comfortable. Safety bar, because front squats aren't so comfortable. Use a safety bar because the load's still in front of you. Or do Zercher squats. Like
yeah.
all of those things are going to help you train or get stronger for an event that you may not have access to, like stones.
Well, there's a funny one. So I remember the same bloke, Rob. Rob used to do front. Rob had front squats program, but the guy never did. So he never did it. He used to put the Ironman straps, wrap it around, and have it like that. So his arms like
Yeah, I've
that.
seen that. Yeah.
But he always said, and I always thought there's an imbalance there because if you just can't hack that weight, you're not going to be taking a full advantage of what a front squat can do for you. And he did say at some points, it said like, grip sometimes is an issue in certain things. And, there was sort of a imbalance of form. I was like, well, maybe you should. I said, well, on some occasion, I remember saying, well, maybe you should do them without it because you're not going to be able to handle that weight properly if you're not willing to wrap, your hands around it, get the proper grip and placement on it, because that's what's going to make your front squats. That's going to open up the doors of potential for it. And in terms, because obviously there's so many like squat based lower body movements for strongman that will, as we've discussed, will accelerate your training beyond it will make you so much better as a strongman. But they just neglect it, and I think in strongman that because of the sort of the sheer testosterone that can be involved in it sometimes, I think some of the athletes miss very basic strength training principles, which you as a coach should be able to tell them all day and explain and, and go into a lot more detail on as you explain as time goes on. But there's a lot of injuries as well. And that's a very separate thing too, that the amount of blokes that I'd see injured and they do some very, very silly things in strongman was just beyond me. Sillier than powerlifters, actually. I'd argue sometimes more stupid.
I wouldn't disagree, but I think what's important to establish here is our perspective and our like what we're trying to like the kind of athlete we're talking to, right? Because if we're saying all these mistakes that we see strongmen not like all these mistakes we see strongmen make, or they need to do this, they need to do that. But we're also not trying to take the fun out of it. We're talking about
True.
people that want to go like as high as possible. If you're in
Yeah.
strongman to compete at the highest level you can, then these are the things that we think you should do. But if you're there to have fun, if you can't be asked to get on the bike for 10 minutes, even before your session to warm up, never mind for like conditioning work, but you're also not asked about going to the top level, well, fine. You're like, you go and
Yeah,
enjoy
cool. Oh
yourself.
yeah.
Like, max
Oh
out your
yeah.
deadlift every week. Right? I'm not
Yeah.
saying that you shouldn't.
No, 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 no.
No.
I think even. I mean, this is more based, I'd say, from the lads that I know who compete at high levels, and I don't doubt that some of them have some freakish lifts, but it does seem like there's a sort of permanent state of injury. Now, obviously, don't gather, because some of these blokes are older than me, and obviously, as time goes on, your chance of recovery a bit lesser, and it's going to take a bit longer to recover and whatnot, but. It can be a tough old graft on the system, and I think there's as we discussed, obviously, that you made a post about saying obviously your training was boring. I think sometimes strongmen even need to have that as well. We also, I mean, even obviously with multiple lifts. I mean, if you know what you've got into a comp a couple of weeks out, then you'll be able to sort of have an idea of your training. I remember an Inters comp I did. They upped the deadlift from 180 kg for reps, which is not actually that big for an Inters, but they upped up to
No.
200. And I was surprised at that. I was surprised they did that. And it went to 200 kg, and I was like, bloody hell, that's a bit of a jump. And I remember getting 7 reps out of it, and I was pretty happy with that at the time. It was before I jumped into any sort of formal, organised training. I'd love to see what that would be now. But I mean, like in between Southern qualifier and jumping onto a next block, I remember doing just an AMRAP of certain lifts, and I wanted at least 6 on all of them. And I got a 220 kg for 6 squat, a 150 kg for 6 bench, and then a 265 kg for 6 deadlift. I'm thinking, like, I wonder what 200 kg repping that would be now.
Mm.
And that's where the fun can come in, and I think that's where the sort of distinction that we can make between powerlifters. But I suppose in strongman, you've got it to if you have like little blocks. I mean, I can only speak in obviously these sort of simplistic terms, but blocks of training. Your blocks of training between comp could be very, very different compared to powerlifters. Because I said my training has been very, very minimally changed since November last year. Like, not changed at all, really.
Yeah, and so like a few things to unpack here. I think you were mentioning that so many strongmen are in that permanent state of injury almost, and there are many factors going into this. One of them being the lack of availability to recover.
Yeah.
Again, for just like age, I think strongmen aren't often young. It's not typically a young person sport.
Oh no,
Not
absolutely
that we've
not.
found, no. Like they're trying to encourage it. There's under 23 UK champs, world champs. Like that's a really good start to get people in young, keep them going. But only if they're coached by a smart person who will want to have their longevity in mind rather than be like, right, we're going to go and win worlds. You may be absolutely fucked and you will not make it to the age of 30, but like you won worlds at 22, didn't you? Is that a trade-off
Well,
you want?
what's
So
interesting with that? Oh, Karen.
no, so like that's one factor. And then in
So
terms of
we had,
recovery resources, you've got nutrition. And because
yeah,
it's not a weight class sport, I don't think people pay enough attention to it because they're like,
no,
oh, just get massive. Like, yeah, sure, but you need enough protein, you need enough carbs, enough fats, enough fiber, you need like some micronutrients, like maybe eat it at the right times. Like, that's going to affect your recovery. And if you're not recovering and you're training really hard because you love it, that's where then you keep getting hurt.
we had. I remember this because in terms of young strongmen, a couple I can reference off the top of my head. There's a lad called Alfie that I remember seeing ages ago. I can't remember what he's sort of gone to now, but he was coached by Lawrence Charley. Another one being, I think it was Jack Osborne. He represented Hungary, but he he is Hungarian by background, but obviously he's took an anglicised name. He's taken his English surname.
Oh, he actually commented on one of my recent posts. I was really surprised to see.
Wow!
Yeah, I was like, no fucking way. But
Nice one.
this unreal fucking junior strongman. I think he had like the British log record for under 23 or something.
He did it in barbell division. Because they've got everything. It's probably one of the sort of strongman hubs in the south of England, and he did it. And obviously, it was like I think it was 187.5 kg. I was like, that's like just above my bench. I was like, that's just above my bench. Like, what the hell? And then a couple of. I mean, Luke Richardson is a shining example of that. I think one of the lifters up in LR Strength Shed is Josh Berryman who came second in the 120 plus category, and he's switched. I don't know obviously why I switched, but obviously he's in such a great place where he can do it. You've got as well. Who else have you got? There are more people getting involved in it, but I think with how generally comps go, and the sort of understanding and where people started watching it. Because I remember years ago, I remember asking Dan Hipkiss about this on a Q&A once. I asked him, what event do you want to bring back to Strongman? And he said backlift. And I went, oh my God, I remember seeing that, and that's one of those really weird ones. And obviously you've got ones, you've got obviously in Strongman, obviously when it comes to world level, you've got, and Britain Strong's got like plane pulls and truck pulls. I mean, you've got like, you go to Rotherham and you'll find bus pulls and like fire truck pulls, and that's just standard. That's just, anyone can enter that, and you've got some absolute units of men that come out the somewhere's wilderness that will come and do it. And then you've got, you used to have one of like the boat tug. We used to tug a boat out of the actual water. And these were old school. And I think that's where the older sort of generation come into it, because there's so many old factors to include what strength is. And that's where that's where the contrast between they and us, and it's not to divide us whatsoever. It's just obviously just make a contrast. In that, obviously, back in that day, it was just like whatever the hell you can find. But nowadays, where actually it goes, do you know what? We want to see some sort of comparative strength, and sort of on where everything's available and every variable is consistent. So that's why I'd say sometimes, obviously, having the same sort of bars and having decent calibrated plate setups can be really valuable for strongman.
I think it's moving in that direction slowly, because the World's Strongest Man for the last few years has very similar events, and it's almost always had the same order of events, where it's like, right, first event is a moving medley, like get that out of the way. People don't really find that interesting to watch, and then as you go through, it's like more and more interesting to watch. It might be like deadlift next, then it'll be, they'll bring up something fun to move around, like a plane, like you say, and then it'll be, stone off. Then you go into the final, something like that. Like, I think we are becoming more standardized for it, because it can be a bit more comparative. It's a difficult balance. Like, it's a really quite a hard balance, because the joy of strongman is the wacky stuff that everyone's doing, and then
but
you also want it to be somehow relatable, somehow more accessible. Not everyone's got a bus to carry or a car yoke to run around with.
It's true. I remember seeing, like, and this was a long time ago, but I remember when Rogue sort of started sinking their teeth into it. And I think that's where it really started taking a sort of a standardized approach. Because remember, obviously, when the elephant bar deadlift got introduced, and obviously the only equivalent we can really have is a silver dollar deadlift, really. I mean, that's our only equivalent, but even that's not equivalent, because it is a deadlift. It's just the bar, as a deadlift bar can do. It can back at you. And, with the elephant bar, I mean, you're seeing people like, Thor, who lifts, I can't remember, it's like 460 kg back in 2021. And that was a huge feat back then. And obviously, Rogue provided obviously a set of plates for it. They provided a standardized bar. And seeing what sort of weights could be pulled off the floor by all these absolute, huge men. Like, for example, Mikhail Kochilev, I think it is. And he obviously burst his nose. And then you had Brawn got injured on it. And then someone else got injured on it, and then Thor pulls out these amazing lifts from it, and you're just like, wow, that's the standardization you sort of get. But I think, in general, strongman usually has that sort of. It's a really great point that you've made. It does go from the least popular to the most popular, because I think sometimes strongman event organizers are very clever at actually knowing what the crowd lacks, because they know that if they can get an event to sort of get the sort of crowd going first, they'll keep their attention, and then you can sort of keep them up, and then obviously towards the end when the really fun ones come in, yeah, let's do that. And that's why stones, I think, just come last on a lot of occasions, because, well, it's fun to see obviously someone just chuck a stone up to a platform.
When we talk about least and most favorite events, stones for me is a 50-50. If it's a low height, sign me up all day. If that platform is too tall, because I'm not very tall. Like, I think the first time I did stones to a platform at a comp, the first one's 6 foot. I'm like, what do you mean I need to get it up there? You got these giants like just picking it up and like playing basketball, and I'm there like, what? I'm 5'8". Like, I'm not putting this 90-kilo stone on a 6-foot platform. Let me just press that real quick. So, still came second at that event. Pretty happy. Had to do the first one about 3 times, but after that it was like easy. All right, put that one up there, done. The weight wasn't much of an issue. So
what do you? I'm gonna obviously ask. Obviously, it's we've exchanged a lot of stuff back and forth. I mean, I'm obviously the one who's just gone into comps, just it's a standard Saturday, whatnot. But obviously, you prepped, you've trained athletes. What accessories have you given your lifters who've been in strongman? What accessories have you given them?
I mean, accessories is always something where with strongman, I would tailor it more for the person and their weakness. Like, you could have someone who's got a really strong deadlift. Probably don't need RDLs. You probably don't need like back extensions or something, or hip thrusts, because you may have like a really weak stone from the lat. Like, right, that's where I'm going to give you a bit more quad work. And it would depend on the availability of that kit. Like, leg press is fine, it's quite stable, but strongman isn't. So like, I'd probably lean more towards the unstable ones, like lunges. Like, lunges are really good, I think. Very underrated, especially if you don't really want to train squats. Lunges are great because they will make you more stable for your moving events as well.
All day for making you stronger stability in your moving events. It's one of those, because I think the moving events can throw some people off just by how big of a weight they are. If you're not a very seasoned strongman or you're quite new to it, they can throw you off. You think, how on earth is?
No, carry on.
And you just think how on earth these, obviously you can do them, but obviously, because you can see some people and they go onto either their yoke, frame carry, farmers walks, or any other moving event you can think of, sandbags as well. You think to yourself, well, actually, they're not very stable even starting. And I think personally, if they don't start well, they can really mess themselves up. Like, later on in that event, and even sort of halfway through the event, you need, and that's the beauty of lunges. Probably, would you do ball game split squats for it, or no, not as much?
No, you definitely can do, but that's where you're not training the balance or the stability as much there. Like, you're biasing more like the quad work, the hip work. So it could be when they're stable enough, like, then you can regress it almost to that and emphasize other aspects. The other two big places to for accessory work is core. Like, yeah, like your full core, front, back, sides. That's definitely taxed during the lifts, but it's also a lot of people's weaknesses. You were saying that lad used like really big leg drive on his overhead work, but it's got to go through the core to go into the implement. And if you're all wibble wobbly, even with moving events, if you're all fucking shaking around, that's energy leaked, lost. It's just going to be so much harder.
Quite literally.
So it's the core work and then the back strength, because I think that's where I'd have, like, oh, shoulders hurt, or upper back. I mean, like rows, single arm rows, pull downs, because those movements aren't in many lifts, like many events, sorry. They get kind of forgotten about. Everyone's like, oh yeah, what quads for stones and hips and hamstrings for deadlifts and like shoulder press for overhead work, maybe get a bit of chest work in there, triceps. I'm like, okay, but then what aren't you training? And like train those things that aren't involved, because that's a bit more like injury prevention. You say about mobility, like when you do your rows, like make sure your scapula is going forward, coming back, going up, going down, doing pull downs, pull ups, all those things.
It's the thing about Strongman as well is it's such a whole body. The whole thing is obviously executed in every single movement, it seems. And that, I think, I don't know how obviously you would do a split for it, but as I've known in the past by just speaking to people, they have, some of them have had sort of some parametrics obviously added in, and obviously it's whom you sort of ask as a coach. I think Dan Hipkiss, from what I remember, Dan used to do a lot, and this was obviously from Rob. This is not from the Stoltman brothers or Paul Smith. Shouts out to those two, obviously coached by him. But Rob sort of had a lot of big lifts just put in, but there was a lot of rep work as well involved with it. And I thought, that is taxing on your body. I said, but that's what made him so great sometimes in his events. Obviously, in this book, I can use reference because obviously I shout out to him, and he was just such a brilliant, he was just a brilliant strongman. I mean, he won multiple comps by just, his training alone. And Dan was just really good at knowing that. And there was a lot of just heavy rep work was a beauty of it, and it's sort of knowing that the whole body's got to be patient. You can't be, with that rep work, you can't just be saying, oh yeah, grip and rip, just use all the anger and all the power you've got that one moment. You've got to be timing with it, because obviously in some events you can't have that luxury of one rep and you're done. You have, if he had a deadlift event that was in a time frame of how many deadlifts on a given weight, he'd have to do that. And that's what made him win events, because he just had all that heavy body work just done into rep work and broken down. He had stuff of like, log rep. I think I remember he had like sixes with log press at times. I thought, how the hell are you doing that? That's taxing, but it's the beauty of the upper body work and being patient with it.
Oh yeah, I mean, I said it near the start, you can't go into an event for reps with only having done like a max lift. Like
No.
it doesn't make any sense. The competitions I've done have all been deadlift for reps. If they were max deadlift, I wouldn't have won them. But I won all the ones that were deadlift for reps. There were people coming up to me, like there was someone else in the comp like lifting at the time, and we're obviously just watching in the crowd. Most of the crowd's made up of the athletes anyway. And there was this spectator who was like, oh mate, you want to watch out for this guy? He's really good. He's going to win this deadlift event. And I was like, oh right, yeah, sound like probably. I don't know him. I feel I've got a pretty good chance, but like sure. And then he's going. I think he did 12 in total with 240.
Right.
And after 8, he stopped. And I just laughed. And the guy went, what are you laughing at? I'm like, he stopped. I was like, this is for a minute. And he stopped. Like, I know he's done 8 and he got another 4 in, but it was like, that is not good enough, in my opinion. And he went, oh, all right, got weird with me. I was like, what do you know? And then I did 14 in 45 seconds and was like, there you go. Like, this is an event for reps. The thing I tell all my athletes is you work for the whole time. If it's 60 seconds and you got an event for reps, you work for the whole time if you can.
Yeah. It is the difference, I would say, between winning, come second, come first, or whatever position that is. That is the difference between it. And we know there are some people who enter events who obviously, are above that sort of talent pool for it. But it's you've I think in any sort of, and this is to any sort of sport, you obviously got to know what sort of you can surpass them. And obviously, the hard work can beat genetics. I mean, there was a lad who was at the British Strongest Policeman who was an unbelievably hard worker, and he beat multiple guards who he knew stronger than him, but he had that work rate effort to just use that time valuably, because you can't just obviously throw in the towel with it, because it's going to show what you're like as an athlete, and you might lose out on a place later on, because you've got to be tactical about it. You've got to be tactical between each event to just work your ass off, and that's what the training just goes into it. It funnels so nicely into it to just have a great base to go off, to know that you can be tactical. You have stuff left in the chamber, even when you're done. And you can obviously try and win it, and that's where strongmen, the sort of beauty in just actually just putting in the effort when you can with your coach, and in general, which we say it's for powerlifting a lot, obviously both as powerlifters, but you've got to put that work effort in. You've got to have that work return that comes back at you.
Absolutely, and this I think is, if any strongman is going to do conditioning, the most specific thing you can do is like 1 minute of work, full out work. I'd recommend the rower or an assault bike. Work for a whole minute and then have anywhere between 2 and 4 minutes rest. Because any event for reps, any event for distance, like usually it's a minute of work. And then you've got fucking ages till the next event, which will be about a minute of work. So if you're going to do conditioning, you want to do, I want to say, what depends on your current ability, but like maybe start on 3 rounds, and you want to be building yourself up to like 8 rounds of that. And the better you get, say you can do 8 rounds of 1 minute of work, 4 minutes of rest. Challenge yourself, like bring that rest period down to the 2 minutes, and keep work rate the same.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because that I think that's going to do people so much good. Like I've seen people say like, oh no, do Tabata, do 20 seconds on, 10 seconds off. Like it's not as specific. Like it's definitely going to help. Don't get me wrong. That's going to help better than doing nothing. But it's not as specific. Like it's not going to recreate your ability to work for a whole minute. And the longer you can work, the more reps you can get done.
Well, it's even in line with sort of 60 seconds is a perfect sort of range for what strongman has. I mean, obviously, some events even take it of like the time that you do it in, and even completing it. It's like if you don't complete an event, your standing on overall aggregate points suffers massively, and obviously that's where strength comes in. But if you can hack that level of work for say, obviously a minute, then you're in a pretty good boat, and it's. A minute in strongman feels like forever. Seriously, that stuff feels like forever. But it obviously does come to an end, as we know. I mean, it's a constant form of a measurement within it. But it's beautiful in the way that you can just get it done and dusted. And then obviously you can go on to the next one. I think even some of the biggest lads that I knew knew the value that conditioning gives them, and they do all sorts of stuff. Some would do swimming, some would get on an assault bike, some would go rowing, some would just do some sort of quite a tough sort of run, if anything. I mean, I knew one fella who just used to do runs. He just ran, and it was not like obviously anything. It's not going to be world champion 10,000 meter pace, but it's going to be something. And he was just ready to know that. And obviously he admits it. He was a hulk. I can't remember his name. He was a hulk of a man from Barnsley. He was a massive bloke, and he just knew the benefit in just getting that little bit of just effort to do, and he'd always make an effort. And in comps, I never competed against him or whatnot, but when he did, he'd always come podium. Because he knew that level of work that you need. You've got to do it.
Yeah, 100%. Like you got to work for the whole time. You can't be like you can be resting. So for the I don't want to call it a secret, but I try not to tell people. It's going to go on the internet now. Everyone knows it. When you do an event for reps, always count to 3. Right? Always count to 3. Do 3 reps. because 3 doesn't sound like a lot. Triple, just do a triple. All right, yeah, sound. And then say you've started your next triple, right? You've done 1, just 2 more. You've done the next 1 more, done, right? There's 3 done. Then you can maybe breathe, but do 3. Have a maybe take 3 breaths, do another 3 reps, breathe in between each rep, like, and then you think, oh, I've done 3 sets of 3 already. What's another 3? It's a mental. That's where the mental aspect comes in, but it's also going to help you pace things. And when you're doing your minute of work, 4 minutes rest, right? You get a much better understanding of how long a minute is. Because I think sometimes people either overestimate it or underestimate it. They're like, oh, I've got loads of time, it's a minute. But the more common thing is, I've only got a minute, I've got to go fast, go, 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 go. And they'll get, 5, 6, 8 reps in real quick in like 30 seconds. And then they're just gassing out, can't breathe. Then they waste another 20 seconds. Right, you've only got 10 left. Like, that's where I think consistently working for the minute, you're just going to get the most out of it.
It really is. It can be a smart man sport as well. You might as well call it both smart man and strong man at this point. But you've really got to be so clever with how you do events, because as we discussed at the start, you could have anything given to you on that day when you get out. I mean, surprise events and event changes are not uncommon. Even a week out, events have been changed on, because a lot of them get organised through Facebook a lot of the time, 'cause it's a very easy
Yeah.
medium to do it through. It's so easy, and that's. But the thing is you've got to be just so ready, and I think that's where your basic training. It's almost as if you should sometimes just go above and beyond to where you want to get to, rather than just stay in the pocket. I'm not saying, obviously, go above an RP prescribed by your coach, or start pushing the weight above reasonable means. But what I mean is that in powerlifting, we know the power of a peak. Like, for example, I had a chat with Stefan not too long ago, and he said, "You seem to peak really well," which was a surprise to me. I didn't think I would as well. I just thought I wasn't expecting, the numbers I did. But then in strongman, that should surely be the case. But in that regard, powerlifting is much more predictable. In strongman, it's not. So it's never uncommon. It's very rare for them to turn the events to a lower category, because the crowd want to see more. And obviously, they want to see who really is the strongest. But they'll absolutely up it. They will up stuff by any means possible. And they'll actually make stuff harder. And I can't remember what exactly they've done. I remember something they've done that's harder. I mean, once they actually did it where the farmers' walks were on a completely different handle. Same weight, but different handles. And the handles were horrible. So everyone hated those farmers' walks because of that. It's like, but the lads who could be prepared better for that, and were better for the changes and the less rigidity and more flexibility, they were the ones who'd always do better. And obviously, and that comes into it, the same consistency as powerlifting. I'd argue, as a coach, you could tell me different, but the way I view it is that they are ready with their conditioning to be ready for a change better than somebody who's obviously just thinking with that number in mind. And that's where you've got to be in strongman. You've got to be able to know that there could be an event change. If it seems, my view is if that weight seems unreasonable for the category you're in, novice, inters, opens, then get ready for that change, because it can absolutely happen. Can absolutely happen. We had it from British Strongest Policeman. They upped it from the opener for British Strongest Policeman was going to be for the opens for strongman silver door deadlift was going to be 250. On the day they said 280, and some of the guys were just thought. Now, for me, I'd not trained, so I wasn't really too fussed. I knew it'd be different to a regular deadlift, but some of the guys went, "Wait, what? What? We got 280?" And I was like, well, yeah, it's that, some of you clearly have obviously just entered first time. This is what happens.
No, you highlight some really good points there. So I'd probably say a potential downfall of me being really specific and finding out all the specs of the kit was that, yeah, it can change.
All the time.
Even the comp that I did, the last one I did, the specs changed. So it was supposed to be a frame carry, and then the equipment sponsor pulled out or went bust or something, and then they
Wow.
changed it to farmers because they didn't have the frame. So then I did frame for a bit. Turns out I hate frame, and then it was back to farmers. I was like, oh, amazing, because I even asked like, oh, how far away are the handles going to be? And then I got this like attachment to put on my farmers to be that far apart, and they were like, oh yeah, no, like we're not doing the frame carry anymore. It's farmers that changed. I'm like, even better for me. But if it was the other way around, I think I would have been in a worse position because I hadn't trained that variety. I hadn't done frame because it was farmers, or if the height of the farmers. So the farmers I have, I think, are people have said that they don't like the height of my farmers. They're too low. They feel that they're too low compared to farmers at competition. I feel that puts me in a bit of an advantage because then when it comes to comp, it's a higher pickup. It's a bit easier.
That's telling because there are. I mean, it's easy to get sort of because this is where standardization stuff comes in because people don't realize that little reach can be the huge advantage in getting off the floor when it comes to frame carries as well. Frame carry, in my opinion, if you were to compare your average frame carry apparatus with a farmer's carry apparatus, the muscles you'll even contract picking it up and moving with it are different because frame carries tend to be really wide and you're not going to carry farmers that wide. You're quite narrow stance when it comes to carrying farmers. And when you and even the farmers, they can rotate in your hands you're moving. So obviously you can go diagonally, also in a horizontal plane, they can go diagonal because obviously it can be so hard. But that's the beauty of it. Whichever's easiest, I can obviously sort of. I mean, they're both horrible to me as anyway, but they're both a really, really good. What you've just said is a really, really telling way in how even sponsors can get tied up with this stuff, and even just a little pull out by them or little sort of disagreement between one person can mean, oh well, I'm pulling out entirely, and you've just got to be ready for that.
And then you mentioned the Facebook thing. I think that goes back to the age of the demographic of the athletes and the demographic of the event organizers. Like a lot of people, I say our age is on and younger on Instagram and TikTok. You're not going to find a strongman comp being hosted and organized through TikTok. It's going to be on Facebook. That's where you're going to find it. Or you're going to go through the Strength Register website. That's where you're going to find it, and that's where the updates will be. There's no.
And it's as well sort of keeping strongman going as well. I would say in sometimes in powerlifting, I'd say it can be the older bunch who keep it going as well because it's always sort of an older crowd that have obviously kept the weight sort of piling on and whatnot and getting the comps ready, keeping them going, make sure everything's on the day, rushing around to get everything put down there. And that's going to be through Facebook, if anything, because I know a bunch of organisers who organise comps, and they all go through Facebook for it. I mean, Instagram is a bit of a stretch. I mean, I have seen some comps organised through there, but they've never been the big ones that we're talking about. And it's so telling that it's got to be through Strength Register as well. Through all those old means.
Yeah. I was just absolutely agree. When you competed in Doncaster, where was it?
Do you know Viking Strength?
Yeah, because that's the only place I've competed at, and I've competed there 3 times.
Oh yes, great place, absolute, but very limited opening hours, but an absolute gem of a place. I bloody love it.
Great place, and then the same lads organising it. Like I think there's also an element of like younger people really great at picking holes. This has ran badly. This was mistimed. That's changed. All right, then run a competition. Find out how hard it is.
It's so difficult. It's honestly, do you know what? I'd say it's probably a bit hard. It's harder than powerlifting. I'd say it's definitely harder.
Yeah, because you've got to organize more people, more events. The timing of it's a bit long, but you don't want it to be too long. Like what was the comp you did in Viking? What was it called?
I can't remember the specific name.
I've done the one I've done is England's Most Powerful Man. I started in the novice, and then I did the
Right.
inters the year after, and redid the inters the year after that, or 2 years after, whatever it was, because I came like sixth, and I was like, well, I get to do inters again. They also do, I think they host like Strongest in the North as well.
That
But
was
yeah,
no, mine was an Inters. I can't remember the specific name. It was just before I left Sheffield for sort of West Midlands. I can't remember its bleeding name. It was there. It was a tough all one. The events were hard. I need to remember specifics because the memory just jades as soon as I go any sort of far back with it. I'm trying to remember my first one, the weights and the events. I'm like, I can't remember. I'm like, how can I not remember the second to last comp I've done? But it was just so long ago that I remember just like going up there, right, get a train over there, get there, do it, and I was like, right, well, I've got to do everything myself. Then I went back, and that was
yeah,
it.
yeah. Like those lads have organized competitions a lot. They organize lots of competitions, and stuff can still go wrong. You really think that people with that much experience, like, do you think you're going to do better than them in hosting a comp? No.
But this is the thing, because I think I'd say on a separate note, I think everybody's got this sort of perfection thing 101 sorted down. It's like obviously human error just happens,
Yeah.
and in Britain's Strongest Policeman, that was organised meticulously, and I'd say if I can if I can strength, it was the same sort of thing, because Britain's Strongest Policeman was held at Northern Strength and Performance in
Hmm.
Hartlepool, which is fantastic. That place is great. I've got a friend who trains there at the moment that I never realised, but he is from County Durham anyway, so that doesn't even surprise me in the slightest.
Mm.
And County Durham's not that big, so he can drive from I think he's actually from Durham proper, but he will drive down to Hartlepool to go and train because it's as obviously sort of in when you're in obviously the contrast obviously being in London is obviously you'll look for gyms that are around London. Obviously you'll get on the tube or you get on a bus and you're there. Obviously outside of it you have to drive, and that's just standard, that's just known. And with that one, that was so well organized, and the owner of the gym put his hand out to actually help with it because it was all organized by one bloke called Alex Bilby, who's a response copper out of Durham Police, but it was the owner actually put his hand out saying, right, you've got a huge event here. I'm going to help you. He said, thank you for choosing my venue. Out of courtesy, and out of obviously, he was just, I can't remember his name, I'd need to find him on Instagram, but he's a unit of a man. And he just said, look, I'm going to help out. He said, because we can't run this comp with this many competitors, men and women. We cannot run this comp with just you alone. He was competing as well. And I was like, how the hell are you going to organise all this? But they organised that meticulously. And I can't, and that's the thing, if you know, sort of as we sort of help us out of powerlifting comps as well, you don't realise how hard it is to get these comps running because strongman at the end of the day, as I said, is a very sort of working class sport. It's a fun sport that's organised through the goodwill of people just willing to put their neck out on the line and say, do you know what, I'll give up people just say, oh, it's a couple of hours. It's like, no, that can take a whole bleeding day because you've got to get everything set up, the promotion. I can't actually say how much you have, but that's what happens. And then, even in the sort of younger crowd in powerlifting, as I said, I mean, sometimes, I spoke to lads in my gym and they don't understand how big powerlifting comps are to run. And I'd say for strongman, there's a much more gratitude at the end of it as well, because at the end of the strongman comp, everyone's chatting. Class, I was chatting with coppers from, down from Devon and Cornwall, from Police Scotland, just having a natter with them, their families, their friends, fiancés, kids, just having a little natter with them. You see that powerlifting, nowhere near as much. Nowhere near.
I want to say that comes into the friendliness of the athletes. That comes into like a weight class. The difference between a weight class sport and a non-weight class sport, right? I found strongmen way more friendly. Maybe it's also the difference between a small human and a larger human. Like, it sounds stupid, right? When I used to do throwing, I used to do athletics. The long distance runners were they were okay. The sprinters, all of them are knobheads. And then the
Yeah. Oh, I
throwers,
know, because I used to track too. Yeah. No,
yeah,
you're completely and utterly correct.
like sprinters, the shorter the distance, the more of a dick they are. And then the throwers, everyone's just friendly. We're all just like big people chucking a ball in a field. Like, why are we going to be dicks to each other? And I think that carries on to strongman, where it's and rugby. Like, generally, props are sound, hookers are a bit weird, second rows are dopey, flankers eights, they get a
I
bit
know what you're about to
too much like
say.
backs.
I know what you're
Yeah.
about to say. Say it. I know what you're about to say, though.
And we've all had that background where we've gone from rugby to probably strongman. Like, what do you think I was going to say? I'm not sure. Felt
I mean,
pressure.
I was about to add. I don't know if you're going to add it, but I was like, the scrum half is the biggest dickhead on the field. That's just it. Like, it's just a small little fella. Like, that's the problem, and it's like,
That's
so I.
because I said that to you last week, didn't I?
Oh no, yeah, we did
When
say
you
it.
admitted to being a scrum half as well, and I was like, right, that's what's wrong with you. Um,
And now I'm in this, and now I've gone up a bit of kg, and now I play as open side flanker or blind side, and I'm like, well, and I'm like, yeah, I'm a lot more normal person thoughts. Don't try and antagonize everyone now. Like, just get on with it and whatnot. But then, even in strongman, I'd say as well the etiquette. We were willing to just give each other chalk. No one was, for say, like locked in and just ignoring everything and whacking their head on a fucking pole going into it. We were literally like, mate, you need some chalk. You need some chalk for your back. There you go. Oh, we need this. There you go. Need some, need some straps. There you go. Like, just chuck it out there. It's like, mate, we all, and there was an attitude of we're all here to help one another. And even with powerlifting, I mean, I'd definitely say, I mean, we suggest in rugby, but it's like even the smaller weight classes in powerlifting, and I'm just like, stop being a complete and utter tool. Honestly, it's like it's not that big. Get over yourself, have some fun, and then just have some fun, and then just go because you just think you're a light athlete in a very niche sport, and in strongman that's the case too. I mean, you're in a very niche sport. You might be some of the strongest humans on the planet, but please just get a grip. This is real life. We're all experiencing the same game. I probably got on a tangent, but we're all experiencing the same sort of simulation of what reality is. So just go and do it. Have some fun.
yeah, I had, it's been obviously like 3 years since I've done strongman, and I had forgotten how much camaraderie is in it.
Oh,
Um,
huge.
Yeah,
Beyond.
it's wonderful. It actually brought back a memory of one of my first competitions. I was there. I had like my food with me. I had all my kit, and like, oh, didn't have any tacky. Well, we got stones. Like, someone's basically just been like, right, well, here's my tacky. Everyone use it or something. Like, and then I was just offering people Jaffa cakes. Like, do you want Jaffa cake, mate? So, do you want Jaffa cake? And then the next year I came back, and they were like, oh, you're the guy that offers everyone Jaffa cakes. I'm like, well, guess what I got in my bag? You know, like.
Of course, but that's the beauty. It's just this is the thing that I think we need to just remember, and I think obviously relating back to the last conversation we had of powerlifting comps. I mean, I don't know about obviously you with it, and I wouldn't expect obviously to be the sort of person who's just ultra locked in and just ignore everyone. But for me, I was just chatting with everybody before it, and it's sort of and that sort of with the background I've grown up with strongman that probably cemented that. Because I was chatting to some of the big blokes within it, Dammy, Will, Dapo, in obviously our way, because we were 105s, all 105s on that day. Brandon, whom I could be Brandon Zoka, and we were just chatting. And then William comes up to me at the end, and he's just like, "You were so talkative," and it's like it's really actually quite nice to have that. And I said, "Well, that's probably because of the strongman background. It's like I'll offer you stuff, and I'm not expecting you to give back anything. Absolutely, God no. It is just I just want you to have a good comp. You don't have to." Run around like a Duracell bunny on speed or whatever, and you can just have your have the chore, have the tout what you need, go in there, go and lift the biggest thing off a platform, and go off and have some fun. And we're all talking after as well. And I think in strongman, it's just like if I can bring that sort of same thing into it, being obviously of competing in both disciplines and yourself, etc., then it makes the comps just so much more fun. Just makes them just more enjoyable all the time.
No, it does, and And I was saying how most of the crowd in the comps I've been to for strongman are made up of the athletes. It's not
Of
quiet.
course.
Everyone's shouting. Like, it doesn't matter if you've just gone. Well, maybe if you've just competed, like you've just done the event, you need a minute to have a breather. But like, you're back in there, you're shouting. Like, you want everyone to do as well as they can. Like, sure, there's an element of like, I want to win, but you don't want to lose because someone had a bad day. Sorry, you
No,
don't
of
want to
course.
win because
No, no,
someone
no,
had a
no, no,
bad
no.
day. You don't want to like, you don't want someone to do badly and be like, haha, I won, like because they fell over on the yoke or something. Like that's not a fun win. You want to win because everyone did the best they could and you did. So that's why I think there's a bit more of like, oh, go on, you've got this.
Well, it's like at the end of every comp, sort of with strongman and watching them as well. Being obviously up in Sheffield, there was the greatest thing about it is that everyone just roots for each other,
Mm.
and I can't say there's any difference in the volume whoever stepped on that platform, unless they were close family members. But
Oh,
it's
yeah,
never come into something where it's like an American movie of like those movies like it's like NFL or something, and it's like obviously the underdog has to win, or like Rocky, but it's never like that. It's always everyone's out for a good day because even for the crowd, it's a day out for them. Like
yeah,
it's everyone's included. Everyone just has won, and there's the beauty in that because as we know how sterile powerlifting comps can be, they've gotten better.
especially
And
in the UK.
funny, so especially in the UK, you'd say.
Especially in the UK.
Well, that's the thing, and you just need that injection of just everybody's there for each other for that comp and these meets and for every weight class it's like obviously I get the reputation, so I told you obviously that I might be on the microphone depending obviously availability for British nationals with Joe Whiteley. But
Mm.
that's the thing, it's like when I've been in pure muscles gym obviously training or whatnot, it doesn't matter who's lifting what weight. My attitude is, and obviously it's with my upbringing and whatnot, I'd always just say, you do the same for bleeding everybody. I actually find it, and that was the same at Super Training Novice. I found it was better to be more encouraging for new lifters because I want them to stay. I don't want them to think, oh, it's a comp, it was so sterile. I think I find that boring. If there's
Mm.
someone, just one person, or multiple, I'd say multiple, it wasn't just me, there were loads of people that obviously made it great for the novices to have good comp. But I just want to make it where it's like you can just have that sort of take the best elements from something, inject it into another, and just think, do you know what? Make sport run on something just because there is a crowd ethos in any sport. A crowd will get the people going. You've got to do that. Got to be able to have that.
That's like a really good point of bringing things across from other sports. Like I've done it in terms of coaching, and then there's plenty of debates through many different people where it's saying, "Oh, what does powerlifting need to be more spectator friendly? What does strongman need maybe to be more standardized?" Like, well, here's a really standardized sport, powerlifting. Here's a really spectator friendly sport, strongman. What can we bring from one to the other? And they're both strength
Oh,
sports, so like it's maybe a bit more relevant than I know a lot of people are looking at darts and how to make powerlifting more spectator friendly because they see the similarity there as fat men throwing arrows at a board, probably not that entertaining realistically, just like fat people picking up like heavy circles, probably not that entertaining really. So, what have they done the starts to make it really entertaining? They put alcohol in it, right? Maybe let's try that in powerlifting. But also, what do we what can we learn from strongman? Maybe something a bit more relatable than dart. But no, like you're saying about, really, really amping the crowd up, getting involved, supporting everybody. And in terms of powerlifting, sometimes I can be a bit locked in, sometimes not. But if I'm spotting and loading, those athletes are going to hit me. There's a coach over in Ireland, Ian. He was also spot and loading with me, and it's the first time he's seen me spot and load. I've done it a few times at nationals last year, and he was like, "You were an absolute miserable bastard the entire comp yesterday. You and I had like a pretty shit performance for me." And he was like, "You will look like a slapped ass. Like you're boring." And then next day we're spotting and loading for the next day of nationals, and he was like, I've never heard you so loud. Why can't you cheer for yourself a bit more like this? Like,
Telling.
but I'm like shouting for everybody. It didn't matter if they were going to win, if they were going to come last. Like, I had no clue, to be honest. I was just running around putting plates on the bar, but still, yeah, just like the power it can give to shout and support everybody. The crowd was all going loud as well. So,
But that's where I think, because powerlifting meets are so much more sterile than strongman, because obviously it's just in one plane of movement. When strongman, as I relate back to very early on in this talk, strongman relies on sort of a primal instinct of it, because obviously a yoke is obviously something that is used in agriculture. Farmers carries, it's implied in the bleeding name. Frame carries is probably the same. Stones putting on a platform, it's like caveman sort of stuff. Log, think of something wooden in the past. Axle, throwing a weight above your head. I could list thousands of hundreds of examples for it. And that's where I think it goes. And obviously, well, being culturally Celtic and Northern, because obviously, if you look at the origins of strongman, the big origin for it, I think, don't quote me on this, I don't want to be obviously just misleading people on the basis of historical fact,
hey,
but I
it's on
think
the
it was
internet
obviously.
now. This is fact.
There we go. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, mislead my words. But I think it was one of the kings of Scotland, one of the early ones, just before the Normans came to England. And it was, this is where Atlas Stones comes in, because he said, who could ever raise this weight to a platform? You can be my bodyguard. And that was where sort of that starts coming. And then you can come from the Basque County in Spain, obviously a very, very isolated area of Spain where that was historically present. And I mean, even in Ireland, there were traces of it. You had the Husserfeld stones in Iceland. That's a big one. You've got so many examples where it comes from. And with it being obviously sort of more present in the north of England, and you've got a more chattier, friendlier, sort of, I'd say probably masculine as well, bunch of people at times. And you say the same for Ireland, in Spain, Wales, Scotland, obviously in the Celtic nations. This is where it gets, this is where the sort of the amp comes into it, rather than somewhere obviously like London, for example, where powerlifting is going to be bigger than strongman because it's easy to find the gyms, easy to source the equipment. The brands are more recognisable and you can ship to London easier than, up to remote areas of Scotland. And that's where powerlifting will probably, and this is why they obviously go in two directions, where the crowds in London won't be, and I'm not obviously slating South East England, I mean, my other half's from London. Obviously I live here now, I've lived there for the last 3 years, and this is where the cultural thing goes in, because people are a bit more reserved. And that's just what happens, really.
Yeah, I mean, I can't disagree with that. I mean, I went to City Gym in Limerick over in Ireland, and in the bog behind the toilet, they have a map of Ireland and all of the natural stones to like go and lift.
Wow.
On the map, and I had to take a picture, so I've got a weird picture of the bog in City Gym, but it was mainly at the poster.
What? Not like those Dorian Yates or Ronnie Coleman ones plastered on the back of the toilet, where it's like
No,
obviously that motivation.
yeah, it's not
on
like,
the back of the bog,
yeah, it's not like pain's
where it's like
temporary and quitting's forever. No, it's like
literally, quite literally. No, but that obviously, I'll try and find obviously, and out of this conversation, once we're both done on there, I'll send you the one of that yoke if I can find it. I don't know if I will. There might be the deadlift one as well. Funny enough, I'll send you both. And then if you send that, obviously as a trade off, because that's just, I mean, what you just said, yours can be far more interesting than mine, but that is amazing that they've actually wanted to preserve that knowledge, because again, strongman is not just some bloke with a flat cap thought one day, do you know what, I'm going to think of this and I'm going to put it on the world stage and I'm going to envision this will become a large sport where people will tune in at Christmas to watch it. It's because a result of so many things just put together, because as any sport does, because some guys thought, let's make this a whole bleeding sport. That's what they thought.
Yeah, I mean, you bring together all those cultural elements, like the thing. What is the Husafell stone? Like, if you can carry it round once, you're a man.
Yeah,
the lap is like that's the landmark of you're a man now in Iceland. And then I think there was,
yeah,
whilst I was there, I've been to Iceland, there was some stones on a beach, and each one is like a landmark in being like, it was like, oh, if you lift the second one, you're a woman. If you lift the third one, you're a boy, and fourth one, you're a man. There's like a fifth one, you could be like I don't know, the king of the castle. So like they have different meanings, and like you say, the Scottish guy was like, oh, I'll put that stone on there and you can be my bodyguard. Like they were almost like rites of passage, and that's what they were
yeah.
used for. And then yeah, you bring that. I think it's a deeply rooted like history and culture of stone lifting, and actually strongman's a small part of that.
Absolutely. It's stone lifting so historical, if anything. I just get fascinated by this. And I think with one of don't know if the Husfell stone, you may have probably seen this better than me, so I'm just only quoting what I've read. But I think it's like they do it in one Icelandic competition where they go around a pen of a field. It's like they've actually, in the past, for this one stone alone, and I don't know if they've got the original copy. I wouldn't be surprised if they still kept it. But they had to go. This bloke went around it in a rotation, and I think it's a national competition each year that they will carry this stone around this perimeter, this pen. And that sort of, and I think they still hold it, either a replica. I can't say the original because obviously the damage that would be to it, and obviously it's probably an historical archive. But just carrying this thing around, and that sort of a thing of a competition, and it makes you think. Putting all these elements together, it just comes from some very basic, grassroots, older, classical, more what word am I looking for? Sort of more antiquated version of what strength is. And I think it's just amazing that we've got to this point.
I think that's a really handy place to finish off. If you've got any other points though, like do bring them out. But that was
Nah, of
very,
course. Again, it's been a fascinating conversation. I mean, I don't know how much sense I've probably made to the viewers out there. God bless if they can understand me. But I mean, obviously, there's one thing I would say to end it is that it's just a big contrast that we can come to very similar points coming from different backgrounds through strongman, obviously through different competitions, different ways of training for it, albeit me just turning up on the day and you actually being quite strategic. But it's a great place. And I think that's where these conversations just get better, when you just are able to discuss them in a good manner. Just a one-on-one conversation, it always helps.
no, I think this is where hopefully other people can relate to it as well. Hopefully there's more
Of
people
course.
with similar backgrounds that want to pipe up. I don't know what we're going to do next time we
Absolutely.
have a chat. Like we've done the two sports
Of
that we know.
course. Of course. We've got to both find what we've got coming up next. I think you've got, what's your next comp?
I got nationals in 4 weeks, 5 weeks.
I've got to get my GL and total up then. Better get
Are
my
you,
body
are
weight
you,
up at
are
the
you not
same
doing
time.
nationals?
No, so I think they've done the selections for it. I think Brandon Azoka may be competing. I'm not sure. I'd have to ask him actually, because he came fourth and I came fifth. I beat him on GL, yes, but shout out to him. He's a great bloke. He's a very good friend of mine. Don't tell him personally I said that. So I think I'm not doing nationals. I'll be probably helping out at the weekend if I can get there, because I've got night shifts after. But I think I can get to Birmingham in time. And then I'm thinking about doing one just after New Year, but I'll have to sort of make a discussion with Stefan about that. So we'll go from there.
Mm. So you didn't get a place at Christmas qualifier at ST?
No, the thing is with that is I'm volunteering for that, and I've put myself down. I mean, I asked in the group chat, I said, can I be on a microphone for prime time? Because shouts out to another friend of mine. The only reason why I'm probably so shouty with comps and I can be on the microphone is because of a friend of mine, Esther Mullings, the girlfriend of Stefan, and she's on prime time. So I've said, put me down for prime time on the microphone and give some. Repay the favour by shouting at them on a microphone. So yeah, it all comes full circle. But see what I've got in the new year, build a big base, and hopefully I can get that 800 kg total. Just chase it now.